Welcome at Flick Favorites. I'm going to explain an American action, drama, war, history film called Black Hawk Down. Spoilers ahead. Enjoy the content. Like and subscribe. Your support would be appreciated. In Somalia, East Africa, the movie begins in 1993. Thousands of Somalis perished from starvation as a result of a notorious Somali warlord named Mohamed Farrah Aidid seizing both the city of Mogadishu and the food shipments. The U.S. Marines are bringing food shipments to the locals as a result of the desperate circumstances, but Aidid is more concerned with defending his region than providing for his people. The heavily armed insurgents in Mogadishu coexist with the local populace. Sergeant Gibson Hoot, an American soldier, scans the area in search of Osman Ali Addo, a faction leader who supplies weapons to Aidid's militia. Hoot informs his crew right away once Addo departs the city. They immediately follow their target's vehicle after being warned. Addo is quickly located by helicopters, who transport him to the military facility. Once in detention, Addo handles General Garrison's interrogation with composure. He makes it abundantly obvious that Aidid would not submit if he is captured, and that since it is their civil war, America need not intervene. Garrison disagrees and maintains that the reason for their participation is the alarming number of deaths that had occurred under Aidid's authority, which qualifies as genocide. While this is happening, at the U.S. Army headquarters, the Rangers assemble at the Chief Warrant Cliff Walcott-piloted chopper that will pick up Hoot from the rendezvous point in the middle of the desert. Todd Blackburn, a fresh-faced private first-class recruit, registers for his unit at the base and declares his eagerness to battle. After that, he is brought before Sergeant Eversman, who instructs him to find Lieutenant Beals and report to him. On Hoot's initiative that evening, the army gorges itself on a captured pig. Sergeant Sanderson receives criticism from Captain Steele for allowing his soldiers to act however they wish. Captain Steele is a severe commanding officer and dislikes it. Many Rangers mock him by acting like him because of his irrational attitude. The troops spend their free time with their unit during the evening. One of them is Lieutenant Beals' group, who are talking about the Somalis. Eversman expresses his respect for them and says that he is there to help the underdeveloped nation. Beals suddenly experiences a seizure, and Eversman is now in charge of his squad while Beals is sent home. A little while later, General Garrison notifies the Rangers of the intelligence they have on an imminent meeting of Aidid's top cabinet. They are on a mission to raid and kidnap Omar Salad, Aidid's political advisor, and Abdi Hassan, his interior minister. Then, Eversman collects his men and tells them that everything would be okay while urging them to treat the mission seriously as elite warriors. Some of them appear to be unconcerned about the operation's hazard because they purposefully leave some of their belongings behind and anticipate returning before it gets dark. A few hours later, as Garrison watches from the Joint Operations Center, a street informant named Abdi directs them to where Aidid's men are hiding. He then starts to feel nervous as he tells Garrison the location and the operation starts. Unaware of this, the Somalis are preparing for combat by burning tires while the civilians flee, warning them of their impending onslaught. All the troops deploy and take up positions at their stations as soon as the army enters the base. They successfully carry out their plan, but Blackburn is hurt badly when a Somali fires an RPG at the Black Hawk helicopter and misses it. The Somalis strike them violently in the middle of everything, worsening the situation. Blackburn is then carried on a stretcher to the target structure before being transported back to base using Humvees. The detainees are now being loaded into the Humvees with Blackburn as Sanderson's team successfully enters the target structure. An RPG explosion during the journey causes Grimes to become separated from Eversman's party. Then, as Sergeant Strucker directs them, the Humvees drive away from the scene and head back to the base. While Sergeant Pilla is killed as a result of the Somalis' continued shooting down of the reversing Humvees, Hoot heroically returns fire at the foes. Soon after, Walcott's Black Hawk helicopter is shot down by the Somalis and crashes. The next step is for Eversman's team to establish a protective cordon around the crash scene and search for survivors. While he and the rest of the gang travel to the crash scene, he commands 3 of his men to keep their line. In the meantime, the inmates are still being loaded by Sergeant McKnight's team. Sanderson recommends that a portion of the team visit the crash scene. As the Somalis encircle the place, things become tense. A daring crash survivor fights them in order to buy himself some time to be rescued. Eversman's team is ambushed on the way to the location at the same time. One of their soldiers is hurt when the Somalis shot at them brutally. Sergeant Urek becomes separated from the party during the confrontation and hides in a house. He discovers a woman inside with her kids. He demonstrates to them his safety before softly leaving. Once outside, a kid with a gun shoots him, but the kid stumbles, and the kid kills his dad unintentionally. Strucker's Humvees transport the detainees and their hurt soldiers to the base in the interim. The rescue squad then makes its way to the crash site to assist the aircrew. To help them, Eversman's crew also shows up. Despite leaving the other crew due to the growing threat in the region, they were able to save the survivor. Later, with casualties on the way, McKnight's Humvees were unable to reach the location due to a misunderstanding with the air support. Nelson and Twombly make the decision to abandon their position and see Eversman in the interim. Twombly discharges his rifle close to Nelson while they are covering one another's backs, temporarily rendering Nelson deaf. All the while, the Somalis are successful in shooting down a second Black Hawk chopper being commanded by Chief Warrant Durant. Fortunately, Durant survives the accident, but the air support does not detect him because the plane crashes many blocks away from the scene with no ground forces nearby. The soldiers are prompted to return to the base to locate their fallen friends by the operation's worrisome status. The remaining attackers, including Specs, who was initially replaced due to an injury, line up to enter the battle. Twombly and Nelson are diligently searching the battlefield for the crash site in the meantime. Nelson fires when he sees a soldier running. Fortunately, Urek spots them and the party sets out to locate the location. Later, Gordon and Sugart, two Delta Force snipers, asked to secure the second crash site on foot. As McKnight's Humvees approach the crash site, the heavily armed Somalis arrive, causing numerous casualties. McKnight responds to their desperate predicament by collecting their wounded soldiers and adhering to the air support's directive to return via an alternative path. A blast nearly killed him, but he was able to escape. The Somalis eventually encircle the second crash site. With one leg broken, Durant protects himself by shooting each Somali who approaches the chopper. At the scene of the crash, Sugart and Gordon locate Durant and save him. Following that, McKnight stops the Humvees to assess the state of his soldiers. He makes the decision to give up the fight in favor of bringing the wounded back to the base and restocking their supplies. Eversman's party is compelled to wait until reinforcements arrive while defending the Black Hawk at the location. Sugart and Gordon safeguard the region at the second crash site as Durant provides cover for them. However, a large number of Somalis keep coming at them and eventually take over the area. The citizens remove Sugart and Gordon's equipment and carry them as they celebrate their victory after their horrific deaths. Aidid then orders Durant to be taken prisoner. Strucker's crew eventually makes it to Mogadishu, but the roads prevent the Humvees from getting there. Hoot advises going to the second collision site on foot as a result. Sanderson locates Eversman's squad a short while later. Urek, Nelson, and Twombly locate them at the same moment. They set out to hide the trio so they could get to them, but a Somali saw them and started shooting. Smith is seriously injured and needs quick medical attention, but Garrison cannot risk sending out more helicopters, so they must handle their own issue. Strucker's team gets to the scene of the second crash in the meantime. Hoot bombs the helicopter while threatening the locals to stay away from it. Garrison calls for assistance from the Pakistani base at the base, but it will take some time for them to arrive. Durant is being held hostage by Aidid's subordinate in the meantime. Durant says that he is simply a pilot when the man asks whether he is a ranger killing his soldiers. Then he makes it abundantly obvious that Aidid won't merely submit and that there can never be peace in Somalia because there will always be murder. As Grimes makes coffee for Sanderson, Eversman's team makes an effort to cure Smith's deadly wound in an abandoned structure. Then there is an explosion, and the Somalis surround the Rangers and keep bombing them. At the same time, Strucker's squad sneakily approaches the adversaries from behind. They successfully take one of the explosives and use it against them. Then Strecker's group returns to join them. A few hours later, troops in support of the Rangers started to show up at the scene of the accident. Eversman compliments Smith's courage for rescuing Twombly as they converse on the scene. Despite Smith's request for a favor to do so, Eversman informs him that he should be the one to notify his parents that he fought well. He completes his sentence and then succumbs to his wounds. After their defeat, Hoot advises Eversman to concentrate more on leading his soldiers home and reminds him that he has no control over who survives or perishes in the battle. A few hours later, the Somalis once more started shooting at the Rangers. Arriving at the scene, the air support was unable to locate the enemy there. Eversman bravely marks the target with a strobe to distinguish the enemies in light of the circumstances, and he is successful. When given the signal, the air support launches gunfire and rocket strikes against the adversaries. The Humvees and armored vehicles quickly make their way to Steele's area to rescue the survivors and their casualties. The convoy won't come for another 5 minutes, so the Rangers will have to hold out. When it does, they recover the dead and save the Rangers. The removal of Walcott's body from the chopper inevitably causes a delay in the mission. The rescue squad successfully removes the bodies from the chopper and bombs it 3 hours later. The Rangers and Delta Force soldiers cannot fit inside the Humvees because they are full of injured people. They are consequently compelled to sprint alongside the armored vehicles in the direction of the stadium's safe zone. The groups flee after engaging in violent encounters along the route but manage to do so. They arrive to the safe area without any incidents. At the stadium, water is made available to the groups, and the hurt men are sent there right away to get medical attention. Garrison cleans the blood off the floor in the operating room after observing the terrible conditions in which his soldiers are in. When Eversman notices Hoot gathering his supplies, he inquires as to whether he will resume combat. He is advised to go it alone by Hoot, who then departs the camp. He later speaks with Smith at the morgue, where he makes good on his promise to let Smith's parents know that he did a good job fighting. He says his final goodbye to Smith before departing. That's how the movie ends. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time.